Hi, my name is Jamie Baxter, and I've been a professional artist for over 20 years. I was recently asked, how do you paint light? Painting light is no different than painting anything else. It has highlights, midtones, and shadows. Before we begin, we need to choose our medium. I'll be doing this digitally using Photoshop and a Wacom tablet. What I'm showing you is technique and concept. This can be applied to oils, acrylic, gouache, or whatever medium your art is in. So let's get started. So here we are in Photoshop. Before we begin, I have to mention, you'll see the video speed up and slow down to accompany the narration. I'm fast at what I do, but I'm not that fast. So let's begin by creating a new document. When you start out, you're given white canvas, whether it's digital such as this, new piece of illustration board, or an actual canvas you've stretched and primed. Life before art begins the same. At this point, we are tempted to start drawing something such as a ball, shade it, put a cast shadow on it, and call it a day. We learned to draw with a white background since the days of grade school. While there's nothing wrong with that, you're not really painting with light, or drawing in this case. You're painting with shadow, which makes sense since you're starting with a white or light background. To make your art zing, let's look at the masters: Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael. You know, the turtle days of art history. These painters understood light and realized you shouldn't start with white. You need to start with a grisaille, a fancy word for underpainting. An underpainting, or grisaille, consists of burnt umber, raw sienna, or some other earth tone. By doing so, it's easier to imagine the room dark with a light source, and you paint whatever the light touches, also known as painting with light. As I said before, light has highlights, midtones, and shadows, just like the ball we did in the beginning, but the values of what's considered highlights, midtones, and shadows is relative to the colors around it, also known as juxtaposition. Not juxtaposition, but juxtaposition. The fact of two things being seen or placed close together with contrasting effects. Thank you, Webster. Now we can start with an earth tone, but instead I want to start with the most contrast between light and dark there is, so we'll start with black. Decide what our light source color is going to be. For this, I wanted an orangish light as my light source, so we'll start with a dark orange for its shadow. I'll be using the airbrush for this. Traditionally, you could use a real airbrush. Oils may use liquid or linseed oil. Acrylic, some sort of matte medium. Point is to glaze the color on transparently and bring up the opacity as the color builds. The next color we add is lighter in value and a little more saturated. This is the midtone of the light source. Now, something to consider while doing all the different tones. That is the fall off from one tone to another. Light works like this. Softer fall off, the more atmosphere it gives your piece. Less of a fall off, the more contrast and defined objects in your piece should be. Think of an overcast day. Sun is behind the clouds, diffusing the light, and hardly any shadows on the ground, if any. Now compare with a bright summer day. Sun is high in the sky, the shadows cast all over the place. The last is the highlight. Now before we start laying down white, we have to put down a ring of color representing the color of our light. In this case, we have an orange light. The closest, brightest primary color is yellow, so we'll throw down yellow first. So in a sense, the highlight has two parts, its rim and core. The rim is the most saturated version of your light color, whatever that might be. And when you throw down the final stage of white for your source, you'll see it makes the light seem brighter than it actually is. It gives a feeling of glow because of, wait for it, juxtaposition. There you have it. A light source that's been painted with solid colors. No effects glow filter needed here. This comes in real handy when such filters don't exist for traditional medium. But if you think you're done, think again. Sure, you got a cool light source, but what is its scale? How bright is it really? Is it a sun in space? Is it an entrance to a dark cave? As you can see, with this one light, scale seems to change based on the light itself it's hitting. Yet another thing to consider when lighting your artwork. So there it is, light in a nutshell. Hopefully this has been helpful. And if you have any questions about this or curious how to do other things, send an email to q&a@vfxmind.com. I'm also supplying a link to download the Photoshop document that you saw me create for you to pick over and study. Well, this wraps it up. So go make awesome art, great visual effects, and thanks for stopping by.